Hello. So today we're going to be talking about my Saturn collection, one of my larger ones, as you might be able to tell. There are stacks of these things. So I'm just going to move some down here, just to kind of get them out of the way. And then we'll probably go through these one by one. I'm not going to spend too long on them, on each one, but I'll just kind of go through what my experiences with them are, whether I've played them, whether I think they're any good, and then we'll, yeah. So this is probably going to be a long video, so hold on tight for that one. Okay, I think a good place to start will probably just be all the repro stuff, because obviously Saturn is very expensive to collect for, especially some of these ones. So I'll start off with Pouli Roular, which is a sort of arcade game, like a side-scrolling beat-em-up sort of deal. It's fine. I kind of just wanted to get the repro version just to see how it is. Yeah, it's a bit slow. Then we've got the English translation of Police Noughts. Haven't actually got around to playing this, and I've had this for about 6 years now. Had it for about 6 years, still haven't got around to playing it. But, you know, I hear good things. It's by Kojima. Around the time he did Snatcher, from what I believe. Don't currently have Snatcher. We'll probably just repro it. I don't mind repros. They make up a good chunk of my Saturn collection, but it's just the ones that I can't really afford. Then we've got Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster with Tim Curry. Another game I haven't got around to playing, but I watched one scene of him going "bok bat," and that sold me on buying a repro copy. Because of course it did. Clear Flying Squadron, or Clear 2, sorry, Flying Squadron. Again, another side-scrolling shooter. Not a huge fan of those. They're okay. I just kind of wanted to get it to see how it was. It was fine. I wouldn't say I'd get it like properly. I have got 2 repros of games that I have since gotten real copies of, but they're not. It's not common that I do that. Okay, so next up, Elevator Action Returns. This game's okay. Kind of a side-scrolling, open the door, shoot the guy. Basically, it's Die Hard, but as a video game, ignoring the fact that Die Hard has had a lot of video games, which I don't actually have, which might be on my list, actually. Then we got Dragon Force 1, Dragon Force 2. That's the translated version. I hope, because it's in Japanese looking at the case, which not ideal. But I used to own Dragon Force. Bought it for about 50 quid. About 8 years ago, something like that. Wasn't my cup of tea. That being said, I wanted to get back into it, so I've been maybe looking at getting it again properly. But I'll probably give that a play, see how it is. And then I've got the second one as a repro if I want to play that as well, which is always a bonus. Then I'll just quickly finish these up. Atlantis. I have Atlantis 3 on there, I believe, on the PlayStation 2. Just kind of a game like Myst, really. So you travel through time, not through different alternate worlds like you do in Myst. The 2 Terry Pratchett Discworld games that they released on the Saturn. Another 2 I want to get proper actual copies of, because I'm a huge Pratchett fan. I haven't read as many as I'd like, but I've loved the Knack Feagles and the We Free Men with Tiffany Aching. Those were kind of my introduction to Pratchett, and I figured, get the games. There is Discworld Noir on the PlayStation 1. I don't currently have that, though that is certainly something I'm looking to get eventually. Then we got Bulk Slash, which is I think a third-person transforming sort of flying mech thing. mech simulator. Similar to... It's like a faster-paced third-person version of Iron Warrior. Iron Soldier on the Jaguar, if you've ever played that. They're fine. They're not very good. Especially the third one. But Bulk Slash, yeah, it's fine. It's not really my cup of tea. Then we've got the Dungeons and Dragons collection, which are 2 arcade games. Just kind of saw them on the Repro website where I got all of these from and thought, why not? Then we've got Scud the Disposable Assassin, which I think is America only. And I don't know, just kind of looked a bit stupid and a bit fun. Might be another game I get properly. And then finally, Radiant Silvergun, because Radiant Silvergun is too ludicrously expensive for what it is, which is a pretty solid bullet hell. And, you know, I'm not the hugest bullet hell fan. I mean, my favourite one is definitely Death Smiles. Absolutely love Death Smiles, but they're not a genre I go back to that often. So, we'll get into... This is probably the more important part for me, so I might cover those last. So I'm just going to kind of go through my actual ones now. And I think we'll start with the Japanese ones. So this is something. I don't know if anyone recognises that. I, for the life of me, haven't been able to figure out what this is called in Japanese because it's only in kanji. Is that kanji? That might not be kanji. That might be the other one. But yeah, I picked it up for like 12 quid out of a shop in London. So why not? Then we've got another one that's also completely in Japanese that's only in kanji, which is helpful. So I have no idea what that is either. Mr. Bones. That is not a Japanese copy. That's the American one. I think I've accidentally put disc 2 at the front above disc 1, but whatever. That's fine. It's a fine game. It's not my cup of tea. I couldn't get into it. Just couldn't get into it. Then we've got Gun Griffin, the Eurasia Conflict, which is sort of a mech shooter. I was first introduced to Gun Griffin via the Xbox and Allied Strike. Didn't care for it, but I hear this version uses the twin stick Virtualon controller, so I figured grab it and see if it's any good. Then we got Darkseid. It's a kind of HR Giga inspired point and click. It had a sequel called Darkseid 2, funnily enough, by Cyber Dreams. That's the guys who made... What was it called? I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which is definitely a game I really want to get into because I really like that short story. So, yeah. We've got Gotha, which is, as far as I'm aware, a strategy RPG sort of thing involving mechs. We've got Mobile Suit Gundam. Not a clue. Not a clue what that is. It came in like a bundle I bought like 5-6 years ago. I haven't actually gotten around to play it. Slayers Royal, which I found for about a £5 in that same shop where I got the other 2 Japanese games. Again, another game I have no idea what it is. Looks a bit like an action RPG, or maybe just a bog standard RPG. But yeah, it was fine. This is mainly what I got that bundle for, though. Virtual Cop. Quite like Virtual Cop. Even got the second one. Been meaning to get the gun, but as I'm currently lacking a CRT, that will probably be a bit down the line, unfortunately. Dead or Alive, the first one, part of that same bundle. Fairly playable compared to some other games I've purchased this time ago. Astal, forgot to mention this. This is a repro copy. I had asked the guy for the English one, but he decided I'm going to do the Japanese one in the Japanese case, which turned out to be the better thing, because at the end of the day, Astal's actually brutally difficult, and unless you have the Japanese version, you can't use the Infinite Lives cheat. So, had to use that. Sword and Sorcery, kind of an RPG, kind of unplayable, because It's not in English in any capacity. Entirely in Japanese. Unfortunately, I've been meaning to learn Japanese for years. I've just never really got around to it. Then we've got Devil Summoner, or Shin Megami Tensei. That's the first one, which is pretty balling. Quite cool to own that. I'm not a huge Persona fan or Shin Megami Tensei fan. I've got a few of them, but I've got some of the weirder ones like Mac and X, or Mac and Shao for the PlayStation. Huge fan of Mac and X and Mac and Shao. Bomberman Wars, which, much to my dismay, wasn't like Saturn Bomberman. Saturn Bomberman was one of the repro ones that I desperately wanted a real copy of, because I played this and it was very good. Very freaking solid game. The other one was Dark Savior, which I built last year by the guys who made Landstalker. It's okay. I just kind of found the original copy for a decent price, so I figured I'd grab it. Oh, here we go. Toshinden Ura. It's a fighting game. Found it in that same shop as those other 3 Japanese games. Except this one I could read what the name was, which is always helpful. Pretty solid for a fighting game. I think it's known as Battle Arena Toshinden in English. So, but I've got that copy now, so I figured I'd just keep that. Okay, the big one. The big Japanese one. Shadows of the Tusk. Shadows of the Tusk. Got this last Christmas. Complete. Has all the cards. Only found out last week they're doing a freaking English translation, so great. Had been hoping that this would be, from what I've seen, entirely playable in Japanese. Like, entirely playable. Like, extremely. Just kind of wish the manual was in English, but unfortunately it isn't. That's kind of one of the big ones in my Saturn collection. This is probably one of the more expensive ones I have. But yeah. Okay, so I've got a couple more on the small jewel case side. I've got the Virtua Fighter Remix. I'm a big classic Virtua Fighter fan. I am also very bad at Virtua Fighter. Very bad at Virtua Fighter, but Virtua Fighter Remix, I think, had 1, maybe 2 additional fighters in it, which was very cool. And it shipped with the CG Portrait Collection, so you can kind of look at all those impressive 3D models and gawp at how, you know, how they are. Okay, so I guess I'll wrap up these ones with Knights. Kind of a crucial one. Kind of a crucial one to own if you want to collect for the Saturn. That being said, I'd say the larger case versions are probably more expensive, but that came with the 3D controller. The only thing it didn't come with in regards to the 3D controller was the box, which is a shame. But again, solid game, really good fun. So naturally I had to pick up Christmas Nights. Basically a demo disc, but a really solid game, and one of the very few I'd probably play around Christmas if my Saturn had been working. I've had to buy a new Saturn as of late. Do need to get the disc tray sorted because the button there doesn't quite work, but other than that, it should work fine. I've also recently, well, not recently, I'm still waiting for my Polymega, which I am pretty sure will run everything, which is good. So, we're about 14 minutes in, and I'm going to get into the bulk of it, the bulk of the Saturn stuff. So we'll start with Wipeout. Pretty solid, more known for being on PlayStation and PS2 and whatnot nowadays than it is for Saturn, but that's where I first encountered it. One of my first 6 Saturn games. Yeah, I might see if I can... Nah, I can't see the rest of them, but yeah, I'll get to them when I get around to them. Duke Nukem 3D. To be honest with you, I own this for one reason only, and that's Death Tank. I wanted to play Death Tank. I've got this on N64. I've got this on PlayStation 1. It's solid. It's Duke Nukem. I mean, unlike the N64 version, it's not toned down massively. But I've got the... Where are you? There you go. Duke Nukem World Tour, which a friend of mine bought me last year. Moving on, I've got Sega Sports International Victory Goal because it was there for £2. So I thought, why not? Same with Sega Worldwide Soccer 97. It's literally the same thing. Same game. They always are. It's like FIFA. It's like trying to collect FIFA games. Why bother? They're all the same garbage. Okay, we've got Firestorm Thunderhawks 2. I'm not a huge simulator kind of person. I'm not really into playing things like Microsoft Flight Simulator or Jungle Strike or anything really like that. I have a few, but that just kind of was part of a bundle. Okay, one of my absolute favourite games on the Saturn, Fighters Mega Mix. And I'll be honest with you, it's for two very good reasons. Number one, you can play as a car in a fighting game from Daytona, if I remember correctly. And the other one is the giant sort of stuffed bear who has absolutely no animations of any kind and just kind of waddles across the screen. I love it. It's deliciously stupid. Virtua Fighter 1, one of my original 6 Saturn games, in addition to Virtua Fighter 2, which... I love Virtua Fighter 2. I recently picked up Virtua Fighter 4 on there. I'm still missing 5, but I might see if Sega do like a physical release of the one for PS4, like the updated version. We'll get to that one in a minute. Stuck together, that's helpful. Wing Arms. Another simulator, although looks a bit more like, what was it called? Aviation Battle Championship on the Dreamcast. No one will remember that because it is it was never released. But it's a solid game. I played it a couple of times, got a repro version. Because why would you not get a repro version? Command & Conquer. I'm a big advocate for console strategy games. I know why people don't like them. The controls are often terrible. Absolutely terrible. But I really like strategy games and I really don't like PC gaming. So actually benefits me in more ways than one. Doom! The second worst version of Doom that you can possibly own outside of maybe the 3DO version, which I don't have for very good reasons. I'd even argue that the 32X version runs better than that. But yeah, I own it. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's really, really bad. Okay, Bug 2. Well, no, Bug 1. Got Bug 2. We'll get around to that. Bug 1. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's an extremely bog standard platformer. I mean, there is very little to it. Fighting Vipers, which I own predominantly because Fighters Mega Mix is just so dang good. I wanted to own all the games that are included in it. Another chopper game, similar to Wing Arms or Thunderhawk, Firehawk. Yeah, no, Thunderhawk 2. Soviet Strike, except you're blowing up the Soviets, which always a good thing. Baku Baku, puzzle game, competitive apparently, which I just got it because of the cover. Look at that, heck, look at that, terrible. Shell Shock. I'll be honest with you, I thought this was going to be like Return Fire on the 3DO. I'm a big fan of that game. It's very, very solid, but it isn't. It's kind of first person. It's okay. It's fine. Max TT, Superbike. Not quite Road Rash, unfortunately. But it's okay. I mean, I'm getting Excite Bike on the N64, and I'd imagine that's considerably more playable. Destruction Derby. Just kind of another bog standard smashy bashy racing game. Not great, not terrible. RoboPit. A really freaking hideous... I don't know if you can see there. Look at it. Like Pac-Man. The yellow one? Yeah. Really freaking hideous robot fighting game, but one I thought was actually a lot of fun. Now here's one of the big ones. Exhumed. Exhumed is a solid game. Very solid. It's also known as Power Slave in America, and they've recently done a re-release of all of the content for the Switch, I think the PlayStation 4 and PC. Dark Savior. I'll be honest with you, I mainly got this because it's got multiple different paths you can take based on that one opening mission. Like, if you don't get there in time, or if you die, you end up in, like, a tournament battle to get your soul back. It's pretty weird. Tomb Raider, one of my first ones. Never played it on the Saturn, have no real intention of doing so. I'm quite interested in that 3DO port, though, because that's odd. Loaded. This is one of my first 6. Bloody as hell. Good, though. Enough for me to pick up the PlayStation 1 sequel, which is not as good. But that, I fucking love that game. Brilliant. Everybody's favourite racing game on the Saturn. Sega Rally Championship. Again, one of my first 6. Freaking love that game. It's bloody brilliant. Earthworm Jim 2. Literally only picked up Earthworm Jim 1 the other day. If you, I'm not sure if that was in New Game Junk 1 or not. But, yeah, I picked that up first. I think it's really solid, even though the disc keeps falling around, which makes me sad. Okay, Defcon 5. Kind of a first-person shooter. Unfortunately, the back of it is entirely in French, which isn't helpful when you're trying to tell what it is. But yeah, fairly standard of its era first-person shooter. Wouldn't really recommend it. Sega Ages Volume 1. I don't know if they ever did another one, but this has Afterburner 2, Space Harrier, and Outrun. Outrun's the major thing there, for me. Space Harrier's fine, Afterburner's fine, but nothing quite beats Outrun. Scorcher, which is an odd racing game where you're in like a weird orb ball bike thing. Not great. Fine, but not amazing. Alien Trilogy. My wife has this on the PlayStation, and unfortunately for me, has this signed by Michael Bean, who played Higgs. Yeah, Higgs. So, a bit jealous there. But this was only a 5. Not bad. It's fine. It's not amazing. Clockwork Knight. Fine platformer. Not one of my favourites. Still want the second one though. Haven't got that yet. Tunnel B1. A game I've accidentally bought twice before. But as far as I'm aware, is a first-person sort of shooter, sort of dealio. Hey. Darklight Conflict. I always like to get an old space ship, shooty bang bang sort of game. On pretty much any old console I have. So for the PlayStation, it's Wing Commander 4. For the 3DO, it's Wing Commander 3. For the Saturn, it was Darklight Conflict. And for those asking about the N64, it's, of course, Lilac Wars or Star Fox. But no, Darklight Conflict's fine. A lot of missions. 50 missions. 50 long-ass missions. Crusader No Remorse. I believe this had a sequel, but for the life of me, can't remember what it is. Looks a bit like Fallout, but obviously is more action-orientated. It's pretty good. The 2 Bullfrog games I have on here are High Octane, which was, I think, knocked out in like 3 weeks for a holiday release, because they just kind of needed one back in... When was this released? 94. That game's nearly 30 years old. And of course, Magic Carpet. Weird game. I enjoy it, but I can kind of tell why it didn't kick off. It's very difficult to play. So I'm just going to cover a couple peripherals quickly before I get into the bulk of my favourite games on the Saturn. Steering wheel, because if you have a console with a billion driving games, you need one. And probably the major thing, oopsie, sorry, Dreamcast, the SEGA Saturn Twin Stick. Got this for, of course, Virtual On. It's the best way to play it, to be perfectly honest with you. I originally got it off a guy called Alan at the London gaming market about 6 years ago. But what happened was I bought Metal Wolf Chaos for the Xbox there, only to find the bloody thing had disc rot. So I told him, and he was cool enough to send that absolute beast, because to be honest, there was a tenner in it, so why not? Okay, we're in the last pile now, so I'll just kind of go from the ones I don't really care about first. Space Fighter 3000. Just another spaceship shooter. It's not great. Blam Machine Head. I'll be honest with you, not a clue what this is. Other than it falls out with bloody case, because who designed the Power Saturn controller? Absolutely terrible. Right, okay. Daytona. If you've been in any arcade worth its salt, you'll have seen Daytona USA. Freaking good. Not my favourite Saturn racer. That will forever go to Sega Rally Championship, to the point where I bought another copy on the Dreamcast. But yeah, here we are. We've got the bulk. So, despite what it says of Guardian Heroes, this is actually Bug 2. So somebody sent me Bug 2 in the Guardian Heroes case, which, to be honest with you, I'd have preferred another copy of Guardian Heroes, but I got one for 50 quid. So, you know, not bad. Solid game. Had it on 360 first, along with Knights, and then when I got my Saturn, I had to pick that up. It's only 50 quid. Not bad. Sonic R. It's wonderfully terrible. It is a whole other kettle of bad, but it is a fun kind of bad. I'd say best way to play it isn't on the Saturn. It's actually the Sonic Gems collection, or maybe on PC, on Steam, if you can get it on there. I have no idea, I don't play Steam. Sonic 3D Flicky's Island, which I thought was Sonic 3D Blast. I think it's literally the same thing. Sonic's only real outing on here outside of Sonic Jam, and they're both ports from the Mega Drive. There is that Sonic Extreme fan project that's being developed, and I'm going to kind of wait until that's finished before I get it. Bomberman, Saturn Bomberman. 10-player multiplayer action. Freaking good. Really freaking good. I would have murdered for this back in my day at university. Because 10-player Saturn Bomberman with like 10 separate people is something I desperately want to do. Don't have a multi-tap for the Saturn yet, and definitely don't have enough controllers, but yeah, freaking good game. Panzer Dragoon? What can I say? I mean, come on. You have to own Panzer Dragoon. I will freely admit I don't like any of the covers for the PAL or American versions. They're just not very nice to look at. But they're okay. I mean, the game itself is really where it's at. Music in particular. Panzer Dragoon Zwei. I mean, it's just more Panzer Dragoon, but with slightly more story. I'd argue better gameplay. Just, yeah. Burning Rangers. I think Sonic Team's last thing they worked on for the Saturn, because the Saturn had a whole deal of not launching with any recognisable IPs, which, odd choice, but there's a lot that's been said about what's happened with the Saturn, and that's certainly not the worst of it. Then you've got the red version of Magic Knight Rayearth. I have been absolutely gagging to get like a proper freaking case for this thing, because it's just been stuck in an old Wii case for about 10 years now. Had that game 10 years. Solid. Really solid action RPG. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. There is, of course, one more, which if you collect with the Saturn, you either have or you want, and that's Panzer Dragoon Saga, which I've played this maybe a few times because I don't want it to break, and I'm kind of waiting for the Polymega to pop up, so that I can kind of install it on the hard drive and then play it off of that instead of actually damaging the discs. But I mean, this game is really freaking good. I'm not a JRPG person. Absolutely loathe JRPGs the vast majority of the time. But Panzer Dragoon Saga is a doozy. Absolute doozy. Right, so that is my entire Saturn collection. And I know that was a lot of games. I think we're bench pressing about half an hour now. So thank you for watching. And hopefully next time I'm going to be talking about something a bit fun. I think you'll enjoy it. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time.